God, that's
In other news,
yeah.
when I sit like this, I kind of look like one of the dudes from Fall Guys. I just now realized that.
You actually kind of do. You kind of take your glasses off.
Hold on.
Oh no, you are a Fall Guy now. You're like a Fall Guy with like a fucking ginger beard skin. I wish.
Catch me on the right day. I'll be waddling around too.
I wish you had said that before the podcast started, so I could have introduced you as my Fall Guy, my co-host, a Fall Guy. That was a good notice.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and you, dear listener, for whatever reason, seriously, for whatever reason, have decided to tune into another horrible gaming podcast. I'm not alone to slop through the muck that we're going to talk about today. I am almost never alone. With me is...
I mean, I feel like you should know the reason why people are here specifically. I mean, there's only one thing that we could talk about today. So, yeah, Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
It is unfortunate. We'll get into that. I've got some disclaimers before we start too. But before we get into it, we got to thank the people who have made this possible. Behind our ugly mugs is a custom graphic that is provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Siders. We thank him for that. Now, I am going to want to propose something to you, Neil. Something that we have never done before. Mainly because everybody out there, I'm going to say this ahead of time, you know what we're going to talk about today. Nintendo and all the things Nintendo, and it's going to also involve a whole lot of other bullshit we don't want to talk about ever. So I want to propose that we end on a happier note. So I think we should do fan interaction last day, because we're not going to do news, because all of the news would be on this Nintendo train wreck. So I would like to just go into our talking point after this opening segment, and then go into the news last, and then do plugs, if that's all right with you, sir.
That sounds good.
And that's why we're a horrible game show, because a horrible gaming podcast, because you guys got to hear us literally do the planning in the show portion.
Here, right now. It's like you're a part of the show.
You're the only parts that matter, guys, not us. All right. we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna get into it.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we previously discussed, we're going to start with the talking point today. Nintendo has had a Nintendo Direct as well as a Treehouse. They have announced all their new pricing, all the new features of the Switch 2, all the games supposedly that will be coming with it. And it's a trash fire. We're going to talk about it, okay? But I want to just disclaimer something before we get into this. There is something that I avoid on this podcast like the plague, and that is talking about politics or world events, world views. Not because I don't have mine. It's just, first of all, I think that everybody's a little bit too forthcoming with them nowadays anyway. I like to keep mine a little bit more privately to myself. But in addition to that, this is an escape. I don't think anybody in the world boots up a horrible gaming podcast to listen to us talk about politics. Like, they just don't. They don't. Most likely, they're booting up a horrible gaming podcast to avoid listening to somebody talk about politics, and to get a break from that. Because, I'm going to disclaim this right now and talk about politics for a second. Not necessarily mine, because, like I said, I don't really like to do that. But politics suck. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, they suck. We live in a miserable, conflicted time where everybody's fighting about terrible shit, and we're losing a lot of value, a lot of rights to ourselves. Like, it's just a terrible time, period. For us in America, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. The tariffs suck, okay? And I don't, whoever's out there and you believe in the tariffs, that's fine. That's your personal preference, that's fine. But it's going to suck for people purchasing stuff. It's going to suck for anybody trying to get stuff. It's going to make people's lives that are hard much harder. And like I said, I don't like to talk about this stuff. I really don't. But the tariffs directly relate to some of the stuff that we were probably going to talk about today. So what I want to say right now is that what we are going to stick to, mostly talking about, is the price that Nintendo was going to set forever, because we both had a back and forth on Messenger, to be open about this, about whether or not the high price of the Switch 2, which we're going to get into, was because directly related to the tariffs or not. Turns out it wasn't. This was the price they were always going to set. Now it's going to be even higher. I think my wife said that she just saw a story that I cannot confirm, that it looks like the Switch 2 is going to be like $657 after the tariffs.
I saw the same thing.
So tariffs suck. They suck. They just do. I can't see a good reason for them. And let me stop you. If you're about to post in the comments why they're good, I don't give a shit. I don't want you to type that comment. I don't care. We're not here to debate tariffs, all right? We're not here to debate that. They suck, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the everyday man is or woman is on spending money. It's going to suck for us because we got to spend more money on everything. What we are going to talk about mainly is Nintendo's choices pre-tariff crap, I think, is the best way to do this. But I just want to disclaimer this, because I don't like to talk about this stuff. Neil, you know that. I like to avoid this stuff like the plague. I try and keep it out of my fucking bonuses and afters, because I don't like to talk about it. I think it should be... I think one of our problems is everybody has got to say everything they believe in at all times to as many people as humanly possible and get mad about those people not agreeing with them potentially. And I think that's insane to me. So I don't like to say it. I don't like to get in those fights. I'd much rather talk about fun stuff like video games. Or once was what once was fun. Video games fun. So I'm going to blanketly state that these tariffs are going to make things fucking insane for buying anything. Not just a Switch to fucking coffee. It's going to make things insane for buying stuff. So that is a factor. And I'm sure we will mention them. But I think that overall we're going to stick to what Nintendo talked about. Do you have any disagreements with this?
Yeah, primarily. I mean, there's one point in particular where it's going to come up, but very briefly.
And it's okay.
The crux of this,
right? And I don't have a problem. Like, this isn't like me. Like, no, we're not doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm just claiming like this might come up and we might discuss this, and that's the way it is. It sucks though, because I don't like talking about this. I don't like when it gets so bad that we are literally forced to discuss that shit on a silly gaming podcast. And that's how bad this has gotten, to the point where it has trickled down to the most fun things that have nothing to do with that stuff. It is now like bled into it, and it's just obnoxious and crappy. So, with that said, back to the main talking point. Nintendo Switch 2 has been announced for, just as a base console, $449 US. And what's even worse is we've got a bunch of game prices that are at $80. And we're not even talking about just new games. We're talking about remaster or port overs of last generation games to this generation game being $80. Where do you want to start, man? Because there's so much to unpack here.
Well, I'll tell you basically how I'd kind of mentioned that I came prepared for this.
Yeah, go for it.
So what I did was I actually just made like a list, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. These are just the main beats that I kind of feel are important.
Okay.
And this list is broken down into two categories. One, what we now know, and two, what we do not know.
Okay.
So what we know right out of the gate is kind of what you already alluded to. $449, just call it $450.
Yeah.
For that console starting price from when they announced everything. It's going to be coming out in June. As it stands, it does look like we are going to be getting 4K 120 in docked mode and 1080 to 720 resolution at 60 frames they're shooting for in handheld.
Okay.
This is all basically possible from the NVIDIA chip. It's actually using DLSS, so it's using AI frame gen for being able to keep up. So I think it might have a good job at keeping it at least 60 frames in handheld. Like we talked about, the games are going to be at least $80, and there's a little asterisk there, which we'll kind of cover in the second part of this column. And you're going to be getting GameCube games on Nintendo Online through Switch 2. Now, what we really don't know.
You also get voice chat.
The what?
They're also putting in voice chat.
Yeah, they're putting in voice chat. I honestly, I didn't even bother putting it on here because
You should.
it's effectively
I'm gonna mention it.
shitty Discord, but
I was about to say, I'm going to mention that they got voice chat
Yeah.
10 years after their competitors and acted like it's a feature.
Now, what we don't know, just kind of like what we had alluded to before,
Right.
Basically, it happened in real time while Zach and I were talking about
it was crazy.
the pricing structure.
It was absolutely insane.
That Nintendo had said that they are going to be putting a pause on pre-orders in the U.S. Pre-orders were supposed to be opening on the 9th. I guess it's 9th everywhere else still, but they're trying to figure out what's going to be going on here in America. From there, what we really don't know is, I mean, outside of a handful of new games, one of them, the Mario World Kart game, whatever the hell they're calling it, and then there's a Donkey Kong game. Outside of that, they get, but that's not really Switch specific, Switch 2 specific. That's gonna be cross gen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So yeah, there's
they
a lot
were gonna
of
do that. I can't remember where I said that, but
yeah. So yeah, there's going to be like, we really don't know what other games are going to be coming for it. I'm sure this summer we'll find out. And then the pricing structure is kind of interesting for these games because of how they've described how it's going to work. Some games are going to be actual games, and some games are going to be a key cart that you just put in your console to download a game. As it stands, there are rumblings that the key cart games are going to be cheaper than the actual game on cart games. So that could mean that the $80 is a starting price point, which is, I am aghast just thinking about. And then the upgrade path that they have for games is very convoluted. We don't know how that is going to apply across the board, because they said that there are some games that are just going to get free updates. There's some games it's going to cost you $10 to upgrade them, or there's other games that'll cost you another $20 to upgrade them to the Switch 2 version. And how the ownership of that is going to work, who knows, because Nintendo's going to Nintendo it up.
Yep.
Like we said, this is not a comprehensive list of things that we do and do not know, but these are the ones that kind of really jumped out at me.
Yeah, I think they're good ones. That is a really good list. I liked your preparation there, sir. Okay, so here's... All right, let's talk about the console first, right, before we get into the games, because I think the games are actually the more egregious offense, but I think the console is stupid. The reason being is that you have taken a system, which I'm not saying that the specs are bad on it. It's got the DLS. It's promising 60 frames per second. I mean, it looks like a relatively powerful handheld. I'm not saying it's not. However, I think you can get just as powerful handhelds that do more for about $100 to $200 cheaper. I mean, You can. Like right now, I can go get a Steam Deck. Again, this did not show me anything that a Steam Deck can't do. I mean, I don't think Steam Deck can quite do 60 frames per second, but other than that, there wasn't anything about this Switch 2 that really like screamed to me superior. You're giving us features like voice chat, which every other competitor has had for 10 years plus. But you are pricing it so high, like comparatively to what's out there. And like I said, this is all pre-tariff bullshit. Like the $450 price had nothing to do with the tariffs. They were always going to price it at $450. That was always going to be their scheduled price. They like, and me and Neil watched that unfold in real time, basically.
Real time.
Because that was kind of the suspicion. It was like, oh, it's the tariff price. Which to me was like, even if they would blame it on tariffs, Nintendo never lowers the price. So it's still Nintendo's bullshit. Like they would have like left it at $450. Even if the tariffs went away tomorrow, they would have left it at $450. But then we found out that the $450 had nothing to do with the tariffs and that they were halting pre-orders because of the tariffs and it was going to go up even higher. Again, the same thing rings true that I've been saying forever, which is you have the Switch. The original Switch, it is at $300. It has never come down in price, ever, right? Everybody and their brother bought the Switch, okay? The casual players have the Switch, and they're happy with it. The hardcore players bought the Switch, and they're happy with it. What does the Switch 2 have that the other systems don't have? And the only thing that I can say is a higher price tag at this particular juncture. I mean, maybe the weird mouse feature. Like, they have some gimmicky bullshit, but I don't think that's enough to attract anybody to it. I think that the casual players who bought the Switch... We're in a Wii U situation, is what I'm saying. The casual players who bought the Switch have no interest in another system. The hardcore players... The hardest of the hardcore who have to have their Mario, who have to have their Zelda, they might purchase this. But I think a $450 price tag is even steep for them. That is a lot of money. It is an absolute lot of money for a handheld portable system. It just is. That isn't doing stuff that like PC stuff can do. And maybe I'm wrong on that. I know you're a harder of the hardcore fans. So like, what does the $450 price speak to you? And no judgment here. I'm just curious.
I will be completely honest. I had a complete side conversation with a couple people about this because we have talked a lot about how Nintendo kind of priced themselves into a corner, and there was no way that console was going to be less than $400.
Right.
So
I think everybody expected a $400 system.
Exactly. And that's, to be completely honest, that's where I was expecting it to land. Given the fact that the OLED Switch now is, 3-4 years old, I believe it is, and it never got a price drop.
Never.
Standard Switch never got a price drop, which is pretty par for Nintendo at this point nowadays. But... given that fact that they never dropped the price and are coming out with a newer console, the previous one has dated tech, I would assume that it would come out at that $400 price point. When I saw $450, I had money set aside for this, for like knee-jerk immediate. Like I was ready to go for this. $450 on the price was enough to make me stop and consider my choices. And then... when I found out the games were $80 a piece.
Okay.
Good segue. Man, my PS5 games are $70.
Yep.
Yeah. $80? Really?
$80 for a Mario game. Yeah.
After tax, you're gonna be at, just call it $90 basically.
Yeah.
For a game. That is very much a bridge too far for me.
Nice.
Very much a bridge too far. Am I gonna not get one? No. Am I gonna get one day one? Absolutely not. I am full on holding off as long as I possibly can before I feel the need to.
Okay.
It'll be one of those, maybe when Metroid comes out, I'll make that consideration. But $450 here, now, today, I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard sell.
Well, and what's interesting about this podcast, right, is that the two of us, while we are friends and we share a lot of very similar thought process, in some ways we're very opposite of the spectrum. I'm much more a skeptic when it comes to why you should buy a system, what the prices are, what they should be. And you're much more of a harder core fan. I'm buying it because I want to get the Nintendo stuff, you know? And it goes to show a mistake if you are like, oh, wait a second. And like your talk about the games is the perfect segue, because I think the much more egregious thing here is the $80 price tag on these games. And I want to say this. I want to give everybody the score. Like Neil pointed out that there'd be like $10 or $20 upgrade paths for your games if you already own them on the Switch, right? But if you don't own these games and you want to buy the new version of these games for Switch 2, you have to spend $80, meaning basically the ports. A port of Kirby and Forgotten Lands, it is a game from the last generation. A port to the next one is an $80 cost. Look, that's a remaster. I don't care what anybody says under the fucking sun. That's a remaster. You're adding a little bit of new content to it. And you're doing a graphical upgrade. That's a remaster. And there are no remasters out there that cost more than their predecessors. Like, that has almost never been done. And if they do, it's because they include like 2 or 3 games. It is not because you ported one single game from the last generation to this one and the price went up. That is an egregious... The fact that if you want to buy Breath of the fucking Wild, which was 2 generations ago, by the way. I know people forget that, but there was a Wii U game first. If you want to buy Breath of the fucking Wild, the Switch 2 version is $80. That's nuts. That's wholly nuts. It's one thing to charge $80 for a fucking Mario Kart game. Look, Mario Kart's fun. I have fun playing Mario Kart. I have fun playing most of the Nintendo games. They're very good at protecting their IP. They always have been. They make quality products for by and large. They make quality products. Those products are not worth $80. I mean, in fairness, none of the games that charge $70 are worth $70. Nothing is worth that in the game space as far as I am concerned. So one thing, you might be able to make an argument for $80 for brand new games, but to port over games and expect people to play $80 for them fresh out the gate, that's egregious. And here's the thing. You're watching that Nintendo Direct or whatever, and you're going, wow, $450 is a big price. But I think I can do it. And then they start shelling out $80. Okay, anybody who has 2 brain cells to rub together, much like yourself, is now thinking, I'm not just paying an extra $50 more than I thought I was going to pay. I'm paying an extra $50 more and an extra $20 more on every fucking game that I'm going to purchase for this thing. Like, how much are you going to be able to afford these new games to even play on the system? And you talk about the Nintendo Online stuff and the futurality. That's always awesome. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to pay $450 to play a GameCube game. Okay? Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't.
Now, you actually bring up something here, too, to take into consideration. So, if you remember, Tears of the Kingdom was the first Nintendo game to launch at a higher base price point, yes, at $70, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And everybody had said, like, okay, well, I mean, you know, it's Tears of the Kingdom. Fine, I can swallow the extra $10. I did myself. But think about this.
I was very mad. I boycotted it. I still have never played the game.
I know you did. Think about this. So I spent $70 on that game, mm-hmm, for my standard Switch. Mm-hmm. Now I have 2 options. Option number 1, I can keep playing it on my standard Switch because they've basically alluded to the fact that the backwards compatibility is not as simple as it seems. Yes. It's a hardware and software mixture, so mm-hmm, they basically have to be made to be able to do that backwards compatibility. So, okay, I either play that with the $70 that I've already spent on my first gen Switch, or if I get a second gen Switch and want to play it on there with the visual enhancements that are available for it, well, what if I have to pay an extra $20? Well, then at that point, I'm $90 in.
Yep.
And at that point, it's more expensive than if I had just bought it initially for the Switch 2 whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
When we talk about the pricing for the games, I honestly, tinfoil hat here with this, I think that they wanted to price this thing at $500. I know for a fact they wanted to price this thing at $500.
Just the fact that they have a
And
$500 edition that includes Mario Kart World, I completely agree.
Well, and with that, honestly, like technically on paper, it is a deal if you plan on getting that game because it saves you $30.
Yeah.
But
it's a $50 game.
when it comes, yeah, and that's kind of where you get into the murky stuff on this. But like, I think that they made these games more expensive because Nintendo knows that they're going to be the only place that people can buy these games.
Yes.
So they're going to go ahead and take a loss on the console itself, knowing full well that people are going to spend that $80 on those games. Think about the fact that if one person buys a game, one single person buys a game, or two people buy the same game at $60, Nintendo's made $120. Well, at that point, if two people buy that same game at $80, well, that's the same as three people buying the game at the standard pricing before. So they know, they have it built into the pricing that they're going to be able to make their money back and then a little bit of a buffer there too. Yeah. I guarantee you that at some point there was a draft of this announcement that said $499.99 for the price.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that. But I think that, like, when you really look at the market value of this system comparatively, like, it just doesn't... For it to be $450, fresh and new, it has to blow, like, some stuff out of the water. You know what I mean? Like, it has to tackle the Steam Deck. It has to deal with Lenovo's new beast. It has to deal with those fucking things. And it just doesn't. You know? And you've got Xbox working on a handheld, which we have already speculated is going to be talked about this year, that they're going to, like, show stuff this year. I mean, if that Xbox thing can do anywhere near what the Nintendo can, and it's anywhere cheaper than the Nintendo one, then, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, competitively, if you're looking at this competitively, if you're a hardcore gamer, right, and you're looking at this, like, looking for a handheld, right? Like, I have a Switch. I have an old Switch. I've always wanted a PC kind of handheld, another updated handheld. I'm not going to get one. So if my wife's listening, don't worry. I'm not going to bug you about that. But let's say I'm in the market for one. Am I going to buy the Switch too? I don't think so. There's nothing that draws me to that. You know, there's nothing that pulls me in that direction. Especially when you have the Steam Deck and the other systems that can, like, run like a computer, that I can get a docking station. I can get the system refurbished and a docking station for it and play that shit on my TV for probably $70 less than paying for a Switch 2. I think that, like, there is your hardcore fans, your absolute hardcore fans, but you represent those, and these two things have made you nervous. Like, I feel like this, on a whole, is just a mistake for them. They priced themselves in a corner. They never lowered their price ever. They never came down at all. Their games always stayed high, so did this. So now they feel like they've got to charge more money. And I think you're right on the games. But I think the games is also the nail in their coffin in a way, because I think anybody looking at this, like I said, who is looking at this in any meaningful way is thinking, okay, so I'm investing in a system, more money than I expected to invest, and to play games on it, I have to invest even more money than any other system, you know?
Yeah, and I did want to maybe push back a little bit, but also agree at the same time. When it comes to... Yeah, very interesting contradictory stance, as we are wont to do here. The one thing that I would...
right now.
Something like that. We were having issues with our furnace again, so
Oh, no, that
it's chilly. Yeah, it's
I get it.
it's dumb. But anyways,
My sump pump broke today, so I got it.
yeah, it's been a thing.
Home ownership.
But I do think that if you take a look at the market for a Steam Deck and the market for a Nintendo console, while there's going to be some overlap, those are two totally different markets. So
Interesting.
to that side of everything, like obviously, like I myself, I have a Switch. I want a Switch 2. I also want to get a handheld PC of some sort, like a Steam Deck. Given the choice between the two right now, personally, I would go for a Switch 2 because I have a standard PC and streaming options. That's why that overlap. It's a like comparison, but not necessarily the same comparison. Now,
fair.
Where it gets a little bit different, though, is you have to take a look at the target audience for a Nintendo Switch. Outside of the hardcore gamers like myself and everybody else out there, we then have the families. We have the families who probably at this point have 2 Switches, maybe a standard Switch and a Switch Lite for their kids. It's going to be hard for somebody to go out there and spend basically $1,000 to buy little Susie and Timmy a brand new Nintendo Switch 2, so they both have. So then we're taking a look at our attach rate for those consoles, and now the people who would normally have bought 2 are only going to buy 1.
Yep.
I think you kind of accidentally touched on something that I do feel a bit concerned about, is a Wii U situation.
Yes.
Because think about this. Whenever the Wii came out, their successor was a sequel console, but it was basically like trying to reiterate on what it was before, but they couldn't get the messaging down and they didn't have the support. Now, this time around, the messaging, it's not that it's wrong, it's that it's bad.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot more riding on its shoulders, even though it has the support this time around with third party and everything. But we are living in a totally different time now. People want different things. Different things are available, to your point, like a Steam Deck. Somebody like yourself who wants to get a handheld console would be much more likely, much more liable to go and get a Steam Deck, an Xbox-powered, Windows-powered handheld PC that's going to play the stuff that they want to play there and not necessarily the Nintendo stuff, because this is its own little walled garden, and you have to pay that $450 entry fee. And Nintendo knows that, and that's why they're pricing things the way they are.
Well, and as much as Nintendo loves to take down stuff, there are still plenty of emulators that allow you to get your hands on plenty of Nintendo games out there. So, like, if you are a hardcore gamer, you can very easily get a Steam Deck and then find an emulator for the games you want to play and not fucking worry about it. I think yes, it wasn't necessarily an accident that I compared this to the Wii U. I want to point something out in the history of Nintendo. With the exception of the Super Nintendo, every Nintendo follow-up system has been a failure. The Nintendo 64, success. GameCube, failure. Wii, success. Wii U, failure. Like, they don't know how to follow up their system. And I do agree. I think this time they were like, we can't make this like a Wii U where it's like a reiteration of what the old one was. So people kind of think if it's a too high priced accessory sort of thing. And then they don't buy it. But at the same time, they totally fucked up a new generation because the backwards compatibility is fucked up. It's all locked behind paywalls. And that you've basically angered everybody in this. You've angered your base, which are the people who have already paid for all of this stuff and now have to pay to have the games again, which nobody likes that. Nobody likes going, I already have this game, but now I have to pay again to play it in a different place. Nobody wants that. So you've pissed them off. The casual people, the families, as you spoke of. First of all, there's 2 types of families right now. When it comes to potential Switch purchasers, right? There's Family A. Family A is very casual games. They bust it out on game night once in a while. Maybe mom does Ring Fit. But they already have a Switch 2. They already have a Switch. They have no need for a Switch 2. They have what they want there. They don't need to find extra games because what they use it for is what they use it for. Like a grandma or whatever, you know? Then you have Family B. Family B has kids who very much want to have the new system. They want to be in on it. They want to play it. But Family B also doesn't have the kind of money that this thing is going to require, which is something you already said. And you're talking $1,000 for 2 systems. We're not even talking about games because at that point you're talking about what, $1,200, $1,500 to have little Timmy and little Susie have not only a Switch 2 to themselves, but also a couple of games to play. So what do we do at that point? Okay, and again, Switch 1, like buying one Switch for them, there's other things that they can buy them. You know, like. I also want to point out they've done some recent studies on kids nowadays and where they like to play games and what they care about, and very few of them care about consoles. A lot of them play most of their games now on tablets or phones. I mean, Minecraft and Roblox are the most popular kids games, right? Kids-oriented games. And don't get me wrong, I think both games are kind of evil in their own way. But my kid's into them, and I have a kid who's 8 who's into video games. She plays those 2 games quite a bit, and while she has a PC to play that on, she can also play that on a tablet. She could play that on a phone if she has it. Most kids her age already have a phone, and they're playing it there. They don't give a shit about the Switch. They don't give a shit about having the Switch. They can play their game wherever they want to play their game, whenever they want to. I have recently started to be employed by the bus garage in my area. I'm in training to be a bus driver. I have spent a lot of time aiding these buses and watching the kids on the buses. Do you know what a lot of these kids do? They get right on the bus, they sit down, they open up their phone, and they play whatever game they want right there. So now you're telling those kids that don't have disposable income that they have to spend $450 on a new game console. They don't care. They don't care about that. You know what I mean? Like, you have a dwindling market. So, like, for me, the only people who you really are aiming for here, right? Like, well, the people who you are aiming for, you've already missed with 2 of them, in my opinion. Because you've got a low attach rate with Family B. Family A doesn't care. They're not going to buy it. The only other people, you've got your hardcore gamers who are like, ha ha ha, not a chance. We'll get a Steam Deck with Discord, thanks. Go fuck yourselves. And then you have the hardcore Nintendo gamers who want to have the Zeldas and the Marios. They have to have it. It's in their blood, like yourself, sir. And even you are cautious about this. So, like, I think this is going to be terrible. Not to mention the fact they're launching around the tariff stuff, and the tariff stuff is going to kill everything. Like, so, like, not only that, now you're talking about Family B spending $450 for this. Now they're going to be spending $657. They're not going to buy it. The thing is, that it comes down to is people don't have enough money to buy these games and systems to put the kind of money in. We don't have enough money right now. I know I've been talking for a while. I want to say one other thing here before I take a break, and that is, routinely, when games have gone to $80, with the exception of the sporting games, they have overall failed. Like, they do not receive well. They don't sell a lot of copies. There's a lot of bullshit around them. People get laid off. People get fired. Can you think of one game at $80 that was successful? Honestly, I have a hard time thinking of a game that came out at $70 that was a hit. There was some that did fine, but they certainly weren't runaway hits because people have started to vote for their wallets because they have to. We don't have the money to spend on this, okay? We just don't. So, like, I think especially when all your fans are moving into the space of responsible adults who are also trying to buy food, you're going to have a real hard time getting them to buy games that they already own.
Yeah, and I think, like, So the one thing that I do take a look at when you take a look at, like, games costing more being successful, Tears of the Kingdom did launch at a higher price point.
Yes.
However, the console was cheaper overall, and it wasn't some upgrade pathy sort of crap. It was like the game. Hey, it's $70. It is what it is. I don't know if that was honestly them testing the waters at that point in time.
And there was no microtransactions or DLC with it. To
no
their credit.
microtransactions.
They didn't
no
announce
DLC,
that ahead of time,
anything like
which
that.
might have
Correct.
stopped my boycott. But there was none. You paid $70 and you got the game.
But I think Nintendo is doing that tone deaf thing again. They have one of the launch titles is the Nintendo Switch 2 Digital Tour.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this one up.
For those who do not know, it is a game that you have to pay for, and it has you walking around a Switch console to show you how it works and give you little like bits and bobs of information, like one of those digital museum things that they have in some games. Nintendo would have you pay for that, a la 1-2 Switch. Did we not learn last generation? Because 1-2 Switch was one of those games that they never released sales figures on, because I'm sure it was absolutely abysmal. That's something that would have came as a pack-in.
Yeah.
Like
it's a tech demo.
PlayStation did, yeah, with Astro's Playroom.
Yes.
Just to show you how the game how the console works and its
all your new
features and systems work. Yeah. It's something that you don't have to charge literal money for. I want to know, outside of like Let's Players and uneducated like grandmas, who it is that gets their Switch 2 on launch day and is like, hey, I can't go home unless I get that new shit, bro. Let me get that Nintendo Switch 2 tour. Yeah. Like, that's what we're going to spend. If they're charging $80 for that one too, honestly, it's a shame. Shame. If it's $40, even, like, I am in no way justifying or advocating, but compared to a full price game that's an actual game that you can get enjoyment and time out of, yeah, bro, like, come on.
I think that, like, yeah, it's terrible. Your tech demo costs money. And what's crazy, and just to go to our point that this system might be in some hot water, is they did some streams after this. The comment section were very active, screaming all sorts of obscenities at them while they tried to, just show gameplay of games, when they were just like, drop the price, it's too high, people are crazy. Like, yeah, there has been a lot of conversation online, the wrong kind of conversation that you want about how high this price is, to the point where even the casual gamers are seeing those news stories. I'm going to tell you right now, Family B, who is thinking about getting it, they have a lot of stuff which already tells them what to do, being Google News, telling them not to buy it now. And that's bad for them. Everything is bad for them right now. And in a lot of ways, like, they can't control these tariffs, they're dumb, but in a lot of ways they painted themselves into a corner with all this. They never dropped their price on the Switch. They never tried to be competitive with the Steam Tech. They always lauded their stuff up as hype. They never really lowered the price of their games that much. There's a couple of sales here and there, but there was never like, now this is just this much. So they had to raise this. They had to make it that high, and it's nuts. Like, the idea that this is going to be a successful system, I can't imagine a world in which this sells enough copies to be called successful, honestly.
It's going to be something that's definitely going to start out very slow by their metrics.
Yeah.
I would love to see what your response to this would be, because, like we said, pre-orders now are taken down, at least here in the U.S. They're going to put them back up at a later date once they assess some stuff. I honestly am going to call it right now. I think they're going to cut it up to $500 and maybe eat the difference, because I would bet you they are at least smart enough to know that if they price this thing over $500, even anything else, barring anything else, nobody's going to touch it.
No, they can't. We don't have enough
Nobody's
money.
going to touch it. They're going to set it at $500 for the console, and if, there is a difference, Nintendo's going to eat that difference, and I think that that's something that is going to lead to the first, I would say, 2 years of the Switch 2's launch to be fraught.
I think that, there is... I don't necessarily think you're wrong, honestly. I think $500 is a real high price for anybody to swallow, tariffs or not. You know what I mean? Not from a standpoint of, we don't see why they're doing it. From a standpoint of we don't have enough money to spend $500 on a new Nintendo system and then spend $80 on the games there within, which... Just for the record, if those games have physical copies, that price goes up too.
Right.
Because those get shipped in. So now you're talking $100 for fucking Zelda? For a Zelda game that came out 2 generations ago? No. Nobody's going to spend that. The tariffs suck because I think that's a broader problem. We could discuss that forever. But... we can't get rid of them, so they're going to be there, and it sucks, and we all have to try and adjust to it. So I think that overall though, how much do people have versus how much people can spend? I know this. I'm not gonna get extra money because those tariffs go up. So I'm not gonna be able to spend extra money. So I can't spend more on the things that. Like that, you know what I mean? Right. Those things that are ancillary, that can be cut out of my lifestyle, they will be. And that's going to be the way it is for everybody. So everybody's going to have to be okay, do I eat this week or do I buy the Nintendo Switch 2? They're going to eat that week, okay? That's just how it's going to go. So it's a tough situation to be in as far as the tariffs go, but let's face it, before those tariffs, their price was always going to be $450, and these games were always going to be $80. So, we can't let them off the hook on that, They were already going to badly price this thing, in my opinion. So, I don't know. It's a shit sandwich that we all that's being forced down on our throats right now, and it sucks as far as Nintendo goes.
The only way to avoid the sandwich is to not eat it.
Exactly. And I just want to say this to everybody out there, okay? I have said this repeatedly. I'm going to say this again. If you don't want a company to keep raising prices, okay? This is completely aside from the tariff thing. If you don't want a company to raise prices, you have to stop buying their shit, okay? So that their shit goes down in price. That's the only way. That's it. That's it. That's the only way you get to vote to a company, because you can scream in a chat on a stream all day long, but if you still go out and spend $450 on that Nintendo Switch 2 system, they're going to keep it at $450. It's that simple. We have one power as consumers when it comes to video games, and that is our wallets. They don't listen to anything else. You can post all the Reddit streams. All of that internet chatter is worthless because they're not looking at that. They're looking at their bottom line. And if X equals Y and Y is enough money to keep doing it, they're going to keep doing it, Maybe this is partially our fault because everybody bought Tears of the Kingdom 2. But we have to, at some point, say enough is enough with these price hikes. And if you think that the Switch 2 and their $80 games makes it, and GTA 6 isn't $100, then you're crazy, okay? This just keeps going up. It's just going to keep going up until you say, I'm not going to pay this much money to pretend to drive a go-kart as a plumber. I'm not going to do it. You have to say that. You have to eventually say that. It sucks, but sometimes you have to deny yourself your fun thing because it's too much money. It just is. So if you out there think that this is too much money, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Wait. At the very least, wait. you know. I don't know. I think we've covered this. What do you think? You got any final thoughts here, buddy?
I mean, I'm sure it will rear its head up in the future because, like we said, you know, we're going to be waiting to find out what pre-order and undoubtedly pricing is going to be in the U.S. So
yeah,
we're at least going to talk about it one more time
probably
before it launches. Or so, yeah.
Well, and again, I want to say to everybody, I don't like talking about politics stuff. I don't like it being on my podcast. I don't want it to be on any of my podcasts because I don't think any of you come here for that. I just don't think you do. So I apologize that it made its way in, but we are literally at a point where we can't not talk about it a little bit. Like it sucks. It absolutely sucks that it's gotten that bad that we have to discuss it on our stupid video game podcast, but we had to. So sorry about that, everybody. Like I said, we will try and discuss it even less in the future. But final thought here to everybody out there, if you are going to post comments about political shit, I'm going to take them down. Doesn't matter what you say, because I don't want that shit in my comments. All right, we had to discuss it here. You don't have to discuss it there. Let's just fucking leave that somewhere else on somebody else's thread. Okay? And I think that's fair. So we're done. We're gonna go to fan interaction. Yay! We still have that to look forward to.
Yes.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to fan interaction, our last segment this week because we decided to change stuff up, and on a little bit of a happier note. So we only had three people comment this week. Of course, it is our usual commenters. We start with William Hohen. Hi! Exclamation point. Man, I can't believe you're allocating some internal storage space for IGN. Thanks for the show. Hashtag time for an intervention. I have no fucking idea what he's talking about. Do you remember what I was talking about when I said anything that had to do with IGN last week?
I unfortunately, because it's been like 2 weeks.
I know. I don't know what he's talking about, and that drives me nuts. Because I don't... Storage space for IGN. Oh, maybe on my phone, because I was saying that the first place I go is don't you dare yawn on camera, you son of a bitch. I don't care how tired you are. You know the rules. There are rules here.
We're at the end, though, so it's fine.
Not fine. I think that might be what he's talking about. But, I mean, IGN, look, I think IGN is super biased. I've said that repeatedly. But they're also still the place that you go to learn breaking news. I mean, usually what happens is I see the breaking news story there. Then I go find somebody more reputable to talk about it. You know, like I'll see the review there and then I'll go watch ACG's review or something like that on YouTube. Like but IGN usually breaks the stories first. You know what I mean? Like that's the first place to start. I think maybe that was it because we were talking about Game Informer, I think. And I was like, I don't know where Game Informer finds a place nowadays. And then he said, time for an intervention. I don't know. You can intervene. There's so many things you can intervene with on me. Thank you for the comment, Will. We always appreciate it, my friend. Then my phone must have gone off because Jason goes, Turtle Power! Never get sick of that. However, Turtle Power, can we talk about the one good thing to come out of one of those directs was that frickin' beat 'em up, man. We talked about it just now in the off camera, but like that Cosmic Invasion looks so good. It's made by the same guys who did the Turtles game, .mu and whoever else, and it is a Marvel beat 'em up having both X-Men and Avengers characters. I am so excited for that game. Like, I was like, wow, they really released a game I'm excited for. That is a beat 'em up I could get behind.
Them 2D beat 'em up side scrollers are really having a renaissance right now.
Yes. Towerborn comes out on Game Pass PC on the 29th. And I have boycotted it on Steam because of the shady bullshit they pulled with that. But I am very excited to grab that and try it. When it comes out, because that's a game I've been excited about forever. I do not like. You remember what they did with that thing, right?
So I think I remember this game.
Yeah, it's like a beat 'em up, but it's like it's almost like a Destiny beat 'em up. Like there's a tower that you come from, and then you collect stuff out there, and you can change your weapons and your builds, which changes your combos in the beat 'em up itself. I've been very excited about this game forever. It's made by Stoic, who are the guys who made the Banner Saga, so this is a complete departure for them. The problem that I had with them is this was a Game Pass original. It's an Xbox exclusive, so of course it's supposed to be on Game Pass, right? Well, they announced that when it went into early access, it went into early access on Steam, and you had to pay $40 for it. But it didn't go into Game Pass. And they were like, what do you mean it's not coming to Game Pass? And they're like, it'll come to Game Pass when it's ready, but we're going to use the Steam to test it. And I'm like, and charge $40? So what the fuck? So I didn't purchase it. I've been waiting for it. It comes out on the 29th. That, and I also want to play South of Midnight, which comes out this Tuesday. It'll be out.
Oh,
as
yeah.
we talked about it.
Towerborn, I'm looking at it right now on... I actually, fun fact, I just recently switched over to PC Game Pass from Ultimate.
Yay.
So
you can play that with me.
Yeah.
Maybe Kayla can play with me
when
too.
I'm not doing anything.
All three of us.
I'm actually.
I mean, if it's good.
I'm actually starting to get worried about my graphics card because we were actually going to try to play the first thing that we were going to play together like a week or so ago. So I was just like, the only thing that we basically had lined up was, what about Halo Infinite? We'll just do Halo Infinite, jump into the campaign, and do co-op on campaign. My computer crashed no fewer than 4 times just trying to get into that game. So then I went to like the video usage on it, and it basically like on medium settings maxed out across the board. So I'm starting to come up against the limits of my graphics card.
For everybody out there
I
who
had to
doesn't
potato
know,
mode it.
For everybody out there who doesn't know, Neil bought his graphics card during the chip shortage because he had bought everything else for his computer and was having the hardest time. And his graphics card is actually, if I remember correctly, the worst thing on your computer. Like everything else is like better than mine. But like I had built my computer 2 years prior to his, and his graphics card is basically the same as mine, if I recall correctly.
Basically, yes. Ryzen 9, 64 gigs of RAM at 3600.
Better than me.
Almost, it's a 850
Did you
watt
do like
power
liquid
supply
cooling or
water
something?
cooler. Yeah, I was gonna say I have an AIO in here, everything like that. But my graphics card is a 2060.
There it is. There it is.
It is. It is not great. It is not
I
great
love
at
that
all.
it's like the souped up except for the graphics card.
And the worst part is, of course, the twist of the knife is now that Kayla has her computer and everything like that, and I'm finally to the point that I can be like, maybe I can get myself an actual graphics card. Like, I'm not even looking for anything crazy. I was going to get a 3070, bro. Like, not even anything off the wall. I was going to get maybe a 3070 Ti, so I had some more video memory. Absolutely the fuck not. Yeah. They're basically $1,000 effectively now, too. So I'm back to square one.
Yeah, I know. I love that, too. Like, the chip shortage, and now you're here, and you can't buy it again. Like, you have honestly, bad luck with graphics cards, man.
By the time everything gets back to normal again, I would be better off just doing a brand new build with a new graphics card.
I'm honestly, I just need an SSD. Just a better SSD, and I'll be happy with my computer for another 2 years, I think. But I'm on a 5600, and I'm making that bitch work. I don't need that good of graphics. I'll potato some shit as long as I can play it. All right, and finally, Jason's last comment. Games designed around a timer are one thing, like Majora's Mask, where you have to do X and Y and Z within 3 days or everything resets. Or Deathloop, where you have to kill all the loopers in 1 day or the loop resets. And you can bring stuff with you between loops if you spend certain resources. These are fine. The sudden, you have 5 minutes to do this task, go missions in an otherwise casual game are evil. I'll agree with that. I will say, like, if I'm playing an action game and, like, I get to, like, the climactic final, like The Maw. The maw in the original Halo.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
timed. I don't mind. Like, everything's exploding. You're on those terrible to control fucking warthogs trying to get out. You're shooting your way out. I always thought that was cool. There's moments where the timer like gets me. What I'm gonna say though, and I've realized this because of a recent game. So since we got a little time, little rant here. I rolled credits on Adamfall, and I haven't rolled credits on a game in so fucking long that it was kind of nice. Like, I was like, I'm committed to this. I want to find out what happens, and I really like this game, so I'm going to get through it. I'm going to at least get one ending, then I'll watch the rest of the endings on YouTube. So I rolled credits on Adamfall. I beat it. The last mission, you have to... I don't want to spoil anything for anything. You have to go set this... There's a lot of different ways to do it, but for what I was trying to do, I had to set a bomb. And once I started the bomb, it's like you have 3 minutes to get out of this area, right? This area that I had gone into that was super deep. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get out? This timer was not real. This was a fake timer. The minute I stepped out of that area, even though everything kept saying like it was going to explode and things were shaking and stuff, I had all the fucking time in the world. I know, because it definitely took me longer than 3 minutes to get out of that area. Fake timers drive me nuts, because I died 3 times trying to rush it when I had time, because it was a cinematic timer. You know what I mean? Like fake timers just make me crazy. Yeah. So, but I do want to say, Offside, Adamfall, absolutely exquisite game. Urge anybody to go check it out and play it. The way they do the narrative storytelling in that is completely unique. And as a person who is a 43-year-old gamer who has played every type of game under the sun, it is rare when I get to say that. Have you tried it at all, man?
No, no, I haven't even been able to play anything that I've got waiting in the wings.
So there's no waypoint. Like, you can draw an X on a map that'll show up on your compass, but there's no waypoint. There's no like, go here to do this. Instead, what it'll be like is like, you have to find notes and talk to people around the world who give you leads that you can then track. But those leads will be like, 14 steps from the river, turn right, and you have to figure out how to piece those together to find the place that you need to find. There are a couple of things that you can find that just mark it on your map because it'll be coordinates, but like overall, you have to kind of decide because of that, you get to decide how you move through that game. One of the other cool things about it is you can kill every NPC and still complete the game. Like, there is no limit to, like, it's true narrative freedom. And I tested it because there's a main character in this game, a character who you have to use to get one of the endings, who I despised. He was like a military guy. I met him. I immediately hated him. I was like, this guy's going to be a problem for me. So when we were talking in his office, I snapped his neck. I was like, I just want to see what happens. Snapped his neck. Guess what? He's dead. He's just dead, period. Any leads that I would have got from him, I got to get him somewhere else. And I think that is just such a fucking cool way to tell the story of this game, because then you get to decide exactly how you're going after it and doing it. There's another character that's like pivotal to the plot named Dr. Garrow, who I knew I was going to hate right off the bat, so I just avoided her. I never talked to her, and I still completed the game. There's just so many cool aspects of that. Like, you really decide how you move through the game that, oh man, it's really unique, really interesting. But I have ranted too long, and I do believe it is time for us to be done. So we're going to take a quick break. We will come back with the plugs.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything, sir?
We were finally able to do an Ordo, and boy howdy did shit happen. Shit sure did happen. Not what I was expecting to happen happened. That's all I'll say.
It's very fun. It's very fun and interesting. Yeah, that Ordo is the second to last. We have one more recording. It's already scheduled on the books. Once that is done, I will set about the task of editing the 3 of them, and then we will start releasing them again on a weekly basis until that hunt is done. So anybody on the TTRPG side who has been jonesing to watch us play role-playing games, I don't know why you have been, but B, it will be soon that we will finally finish the Red Asphalt storyline. And man, there is a lot of red on that asphalt. Just believe you and me, some shit happens. It's not one to miss if you are an Ordo fan. As far as I am concerned, there's plenty of stuff in the show. I did do a review for Adamfall, what I was just talking about recently. I am planning on doing a review for South of Midnight. Our reviews are kind of keeping us going here a little bit. And then, of course, there's OMGM, Old Man General Manager, which I can officially say I have scheduled time to record with Jeremy for Season 7, which is insane since the content that we have will not end until mid-June, I think. So you will not see any of it until like 4 months from now, but we have set time to record. So that show will continue on into Infinium. As far as the TTRPG stuff, like I said, we're getting back onto it, getting back on board with it, and very soon I'm going to be finished with my testing, and I am going to get back to streaming some stuff. At the very least, in summer, I am going to be streaming weekly again. Age of Wonders 4 just came out with another fucking DLC that I can't wait to get and play for you guys. So stay with us, stick with us. You guys can also reach us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Xbox, on X at Old Man Gaming.
Xbox.
Get
on your Xbox.
You can also find us on Blue Sky.
Boston.
Search. Oh my God! Shut up. Blue Sky. Search Axiom Games LLC / Old Man Gaming, and then of course you can find us on Discord. The link is in the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. As long as you guys keep watching and listening, we will keep endeavoring to make them. We'll see you guys on the next one.